Now, Matt, let's stick with the Courier Mail. And, of course, today was quite an historic day in Queensland Parliament with the Premier being found in contempt. Now, there'll be no criminal charges laid against the Premier, but this is quite an embarrassing scenario for Anastasia Palaszczuk. Headline is a sorry state of affairs. Anastasia Palaszczuk is unlikely to face criminal sanctions after becoming the first Queensland Premier to be found guilty of contempt in the history of Parliament's Ethics Committee. Mrs Palaszczuk yesterday unreservedly apologised to the House after she was found to have improperly interfered with the free performance of Queensland's Katter Australian Party MPs when she withdrew their extra resources after they refused her demand to denounce then-Senator Fraser Anning over his contentious final solution speech. This is a big win for the Katter Party, I must say, Matt.
Yeah, it's a very interesting case, Claire, so you'd have to say, and interesting, I think, from a free speech point of view. Now, I, could not for 1 minute agree with some of the views of Fraser Anning and some of the views that he put forward during his time in the Australian Parliament, but I suppose the idea that his party could be sanctioned and have resources withdrawn from them because it refused to denounce views that he's made, I think that, most people, even if they don't agree or even if they're appalled by some of the things that Senator Fraser Anning had to say, I think they'd agree that that doesn't necessarily mean that the Premier should come out and withdraw a party's resources. So I think you're right, it is a big win for the Katter Party, but it is a very interesting case as well, and interesting that this is the first time in the history of the Queensland Parliament that this has happened.
Well, indeed it has, and Lisa, I think the problem here for the Premier is that she simply overreached. As Matt said, no one in this country, other than Fraser Anning, agreed with his comments in relation to that final solution that he came up with, which was utter rubbish. But to then turn around, the Katter boys had no idea that Fraser Anning, who's subsequently gone from KAP, was going to say that. To then turn around and say, well, look, we are going to withdraw all of your support, staff support, resources, which is so important to minor parties, was very much an overreach. And I know the Premier pretty well, and I'm pretty certain that she got some very bad advice here. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with her, and this is incredibly embarrassing for her to be censured in this way.
Yeah, well, Katter has come out and said, look, he thinks the apology was very heavily qualified, so I don't think he's at all happy with the tone of the apology at all. And look, when you look at the timing, Palaszczuk was just starting to make some headway. She had the great publicity around her when she made the Olympic bid. Of course, you were over there for that. And now to find herself, front page news again, and bad front page news, this is not good for her and it's not good for Labor.